I've talked on the channel a lot about how I'm into vibe, and what we should be doing as engineers is connecting the artist's intention and that emotion and delivering it to the listener in the most effective way. That's been my whole view of things. And you can get down going that road and feel like you're doing a good job, and then something comes along and changes things for you. I just recently went through that, witnessing it through someone else's eyes, and I want to talk about it. As engineers, it's not often that we get to see how other people work, and it's really cool when we get that opportunity. This is a bit of a different scenario for me that I didn't anticipate having. Getting to go up to LA with Jonathan Morrison, if you don't know him, it's TLD Today on YouTube. Crazy cool tech channel, crazy cool guy. I got to go up and listen to a bunch of Atmos rooms, and regardless of what you think about Atmos, regardless of the vehicle of delivery, my main takeaway for that was how to pull out emotion from a song and connect it to the listener. In this instance, we were talking a lot about Atmos, but I think Jonathan has a very keen grasp on emotion and delivery to music, and not just how he works. What got me hyped the whole week and excited to go back and make music was honestly like how he looked at people who were listening to music in that room for the first time. Again, let's separate Atmos from the conversation for the moment. Having that level of excitement and genuine interest in human connection for that moment. I mean, when he was showing people things, even people who knew nothing about music, there was one point where he brought in the people doing the wallpaper in the next room and let them listen to it. They would have no idea. They're not musicians, they're not engineers, they don't really know the implications of the room that they're in. They're just listening to something. And it was so refreshing to not only see their faces while they were listening to something like that, but to see his face. He was so locked in to whoever was listening at that moment, and not even just in Atmos. When he was showing someone anything, his joy in what he was getting across really struck me. Because we all start with that as engineers. We all have that passion that brought us to making music in the first place. And I feel like once you start to do this as a career, you can start to lose that a little bit. Not that we don't love what we do. I love everything about what I get to do, but it's easy to start looking at things as very transactional. And maybe you start to lose touch with certain things, or you let your creativity slip in a certain area, or you don't take the extra time, or you know you could do something better, but this is good enough, and you move on. And that's okay sometimes, but it's something natural that we go through, having jobs, having careers, doing this for a living. But what I was able to witness with him and sitting in the room with him was getting that infectious passion, I suppose. It's hard to really put into words what I experienced in that moment. And again, let's separate Atmos from this particular conversation. It was someone who loved music and the experience of music, regardless of the vehicle in which it was delivered and the tools used to deliver it. He was pumped on the music. He was pumped on the experience. And he was so genuinely enthralled with what he was showing someone. It really got me excited to go back and get to work. This isn't something I had scripted out or anything. I guess the thing I can take away from this whole trip is to surround yourself with people who inspire you to no end, that have a drive and determination that won't be hindered, but rather they're so in love with the craft itself that they are just so excited to show you what they're doing. And that level of passion for the craft is infectious. It made me come back to my own space. I've been here working now for a few days, and it's got me going the extra mile on a whole lot of things, and not things that I wouldn't do normally. Not things that are hard, not things that I'm spending extra time on, but I want to do the best I can possibly do on everything. And I guess that's something I didn't even realize that I was slipping on. But putting in that extra just few percent of effort on something just for the love of the craft. The artist will never know that I did it. The audience will probably never know that I did it, but I will. And that makes me even more proud of what I'm putting out. Whether or not I'm making the best mixes out there, I don't think that matters. And I don't think John necessarily cares about that either. It's putting everything you have into what you're doing at the moment. Because it's easy to come from the outside and critique anything. You don't know what that person started with. You don't know the steps that were involved to get to that end result. So it's really easy to critique something from the outside. And in those instances, it's easy to take those critiques to heart and really come off with a negative perception of the craft as a whole. But really latching on to the joy of making music and the joy of watching people experience the art that we get to have a hand in making is huge. The biggest thing I can point this back to is I had a listening party with a band years ago. We don't get to do that a whole lot. Mixing for people all over the world is cool. It is cool. But sometimes you don't even meet the person you're mixing. Sometimes you're not even talking to them. Everything happens through email. There's a fair bit of clients where we're talking on the phone and we're FaceTiming, but it doesn't always happen. So it's easy to let the back end of that kind of slip. And I guess for that, you kind of end up with a lack of closure. I think what I'm going to take away most from this, Atmos aside, because I know that's a pretty divisive topic. One thing we can all agree on is that music is made by humans, and humans have very complex emotions, and it's okay to get involved with that side of it. I think there's a lot of people that we tend to work with who try to separate emotion from what we do because it becomes work. But once you start to lose that, it happens slowly, and then you don't realize the things you're letting slip through the cracks because they've become habits, or it's easier this way, or you can do this a little bit faster, and all of those things are valid. As long as we latch on to the emotion and the joy of what we're doing. Because at the heart of it, if we are getting joy from this, and we see the big picture, and we're working as hard as we possibly can to get to that end result, it's hard for us to fail. It may be easy for someone else to critique, not knowing what we started with, but it's hard for us to really fail when we do that. Because you're coming out of that project with so much more fulfillment. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for this one. Maybe take a look at what you're doing now and see if you're letting things slip through the cracks, if you're truly finding the joy in what you're doing. Comment down below if you've had a project where you struggled with that. Comment if you're doing a project now where you're in that vibe, man. If you like this one, hit the like button. Subscribe if you like what we're doing. I'm Resident Loser Jeremy. I'll see you in the next one.